Guess what? There is unbelievable news. The queues for the maps have just been reopened. And when I say just reopened, I mean they were opened in August, but I am way behind with my videos, so I'm just telling you about it now.
But anyway, we're here now, and I am excited to work on this map some more.
So the last time that I worked on this map, I made this lobby, as well as one of the 5 or 6 maps that I'm going to make for the game. Now, because I don't want this to just be a series about building, I went ahead and did some building off camera. The first thing I did is I made some updates to this map. I didn't do anything terribly dramatic, I just threw in some iron bars here and there. I threw in some sea lanterns, this glazed terracotta. I don't know, I just wanted to make the map as a whole look somewhat more interesting than it was before. It's certainly not like a professional level map, but for now at least, I am content with this. Now, the other thing I did is I went ahead and made a second map. Now, the one thing you will notice about this map is it's a lot taller than the last map, and it's made of blocks that are a lot sturdier than the last map, like stone and even deep slate down there. That's because I realized it would be cool if maps differ in gameplay as well as in appearance. So like maybe on this map, since it's much thicker, there's a little bit less of a threat of actually getting knocked off the edge. But what that means is now the main threat is just getting blown up by the TNT itself. So I don't know, maybe kind of an interesting little difference. It may completely flop, in which case I will have to modify this map heavily, but I thought it would make the game more fun if there was a little bit of variety based on the maps. The most important thing though is that we have a second map, because the first thing I want to do today is some technical stuff involving map selection. Now, I'm probably not going to set up like a user interface kind of map selector today, because that sounds like a lot of work and also something that's really only possible once all the maps are built. However, I do want to set up some kind of internal way for the game to know which map the player has selected and start the game appropriately.
The way I made this internal map selection was, believe it or not, with a scoreboard. I just set up a scoreboard number, and whatever that number is set to is the map that will be selected. The primary benefit of doing this with a scoreboard is that it makes it much easier for me to connect the UI with the actual map selection. The UI map selector just has to set the scoreboard value to whatever map is picked in that UI, and then it will work.
Now, to turn that scoreboard into what actual map is loaded, we have to look at the code over here. What we're doing here is we're making a structure block with the map loaded in, and then activating it with a redstone block to activate the structure block, which deletes the redstone block and the structure block itself and creates the map. Now, here's what I'm thinking. What we should do now is we should just make the same structure block, but then we check to see what the score is and set in the corresponding map. So if our map score is 1, load in map 1, 2, it's 2, and so on. So if we reload and run our start game function with map set to 1, it will again load in this map. If we set map equal to 2 and start the game, I am underground, which will need to be changed, but we do get the correct map loaded, which is pretty fantastic. Now, obviously there were 2 problems with that. The first of those problems is that we spawned underground, and the second one that I'm noticing just now is that for some reason it's not spawning any TNT. A little bit of troubleshooting later, and I believe that I have actually solved both of the problems, which is pretty cool. The problem with the TNT not summoning, I don't know how it was happening, but basically the entity that summons the TNT was getting destroyed somehow, and that was no good. As for the other problem, where players were getting spawned underground, I haven't actually had a chance to test this one and make sure that it is fixed, but I believe that it should be. If we test here, it is not. Okay, well that's very sad. So my original plan was to use /spread players, because /spread players will place players at ground height even if they start out underground. I believe the issue, unfortunately, is that when you run the start game function, it takes a moment for the chunks to update after this, massive structure gets loaded in, which makes sense. The issue is that it does mean that we're going to have to find some other solution for this. Probably the best way to do it is going to be to mess with the heights of the structures as they appear in the structure block, which is essentially going to be a massive pain in the neck, so I'm not going to do it on camera here.
Now, at this point, it was time to add some new, exciting content. In my last minigame, I let players pick items in the lobby which they could then use inside the game, and I thought that was really good for a couple of reasons. It added depth to the strategy and increased replayability, but mostly it was just fun. The one problem was, since I let players pick out multiple items, a lot of the combinations of items ended up just kind of feeling the same. So for this game, I'm instead going to have kits of items, and I'm going to let players pick one kit which they'll use in the game, and that way there will be zero overlap between any of the item sets.
Now that I'm here, it kind of occurs to me that I've put precisely zero thought into what I should make the different kits be, so that was rather foolish on my part. But how about this? How about one of the kits can be like a nice little bird thing? I'm going to give them an elytra, I'm going to give them 3 firework rockets, and I am going to give them jump boost, because everyone likes jump boost. However, to compensate for their strength, I will probably take away some of their hearts, because, you know, they're birds, they're small, they're easy to kill, I don't know. But first, let's get started with the selection. So, as you may well be able to guess, I'm going to be using a scoreboard to help keep track of what kit a player is using. As for the actual little kit selection UI, I'm going to be using an ender chest. I've done sort of inventory-based UIs using ender chests in the past. I found them to be the easiest way to do such a thing. You know, maybe I'll go over videos on how to do this sometime, but probably not right now because it's a little bit complicated and beyond the scope of this video. Once it's done though, I have to say it always looks pretty impressive. We have our bird thing here, and when we click it, it gets selected. And as you can see, our kit score does in fact go to 1. I can also deselect it if I want to, and once I have more things filled in here, it'll also work with all of those pretty easily. So exciting. Now obviously the next step is to make this score actually translate to something happening in-game. So that's what I'm gonna do next. Alright, and I believe I have that all set up now as well. Unfortunately, what I've been doing here is not really complicated enough to be interesting, but also too complicated to not be confusing. So there's not really much to say about it, honestly. It's just like functions and functions. They do stuff when the game starts, it's chill. And also, of course, I'm not even confident that it's going to work. But let's give it a shot. We have our bird selected, and if we start the game... This makes me nervous every time, dude. Okay, I did get the stuff, no way! There's no way it actually worked. Now, the important question here is... When I say, oh, that's too many TNTs. Oh, you know what's going on? I think I know the problem. Basically what's going on is in our start game function, we do all this stuff to load in the map, but all of this relies upon this structure block actually getting placed. And as you can see, like if I try to set some really far away block to something, it doesn't work because the position is not loaded. So you don't really want to force load chunks if you can avoid it because it causes lag, but it's kind of looking like I might just have to do that. But on the bright side, the stuff with the kits is working great. I mean, so I think that there we did what we set out to do. As for the stuff with the map not loading in properly, actually the map not loading in properly in multiple ways, that's the kind of boring bug that I don't think is really worth dedicating any video time to, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that on my own. And what that means is that we are actually done with this video for today. By next time, I will try to have the whole map loading fixed, and I will also try to have, I don't know, one more map maybe. I don't really like building maps, but it's got to be done. And next time we can maybe make some more kits, and I don't know, maybe get started on some more interesting stuff as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. This series has been super fun to work on. I love doing these maps. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.